If you're imposing massive restrictions on your diet and avoiding all your favorite foods just to lose some weight, chances are you're probably not going to stick to that plan for very long. And after over 12 years of working hands-on with people looking to lose weight both at my gyms in New Jersey and online, I found that the fastest way for people to lose weight is to take simple steps that are actually sustainable. And the slowest way to lose weight is by going through the yo-yo dieting cycle where you lose the weight and then you regain it over and over again. And when people go through that cycle, it truly doesn't matter how fast you originally lost the weight, because even if you lose 30 pounds in a month with a restrictive no-carb diet, but you regain all of it the next month, well, at the end of month 2, you basically just lost nothing. So the 5 simple methods that I'm about to go over are not going to be magical quick fixes or revolutionary breakthroughs in fat loss by any means. But what I can tell you from experience that comes from actually working with real people is if you implement these simple changes, you will lose weight faster, and it won't be as much of a day-to-day grind to do so, which will allow you to actually keep the weight off. So step number 1 is to not be overly restrictive with your diet, or at least not for too long. Now, why is this so important? Why is this the very first step? Well, your mind is one of the hardest things to control. It's true that following a restrictive plan can be beneficial in the beginning to break some bad eating habits, reduce cravings for things like sugar, and to see some quick results so that you feel motivated to want to keep going. However, this is so important, guys. If you don't switch away from that restrictive mindset, you're literally setting yourself up for a binge. If you love pastries and ice cream and chips and pasta and you tell yourself, that's it, I'm never eating any of these things again, all you'll be able to think about are those very things that you're restricting, and you'll be thinking about them 10 times more than ever before. This is just how the mind works. When we tell ourselves that we're not allowed to do something that we really want, it becomes a battle. And I'm not saying that you can't win this battle for some time, but if you try this restrictive approach for too long, you're gonna have at least one bad day and you're gonna binge. And by the time you get that binge under control, you're gonna be back to square one. I've seen this over and over again. So for most people that aren't getting ready for a competition, 4 to 6 weeks is really the maximum amount of time that you want to be restrictive for. And really, you don't even have to be restrictive at all. You don't have to count every last one of your calories, and you don't have to go to bed every night dying from hunger. So how does that work? How do you lose weight without the typical restrictive route? Well, this is where step 2 comes into play. And again, guys, this is very important. Always satisfy your hunger before satisfying your cravings. When you get hungry, your mind will immediately wander off to thinking about foods that are very calorically dense and easily accessible, like donuts, ice cream, and potato chips. When food has a high caloric density, it just means that it has a lot of calories for its size, or in other words, for the amount of space that it'll ultimately take up in your stomach. For example, 1 cup of spinach only has 7 calories. Meanwhile, 1 cup of M&Ms has over 1,000 calories. And which one do you think you're more likely to crave when you get hungry? This is why crash diets that don't routinely satisfy your hunger usually end in a giant binge session that includes tons of sweet and fattening processed foods. Based on how we evolved, it makes sense that we're wired to crave foods that are high in sugar and fat because those foods provide a quick, large amount of calories all in a compact size. And before we had supermarkets, modern agriculture, and refrigerators, it was actually important to take in enough calories to refill your fat stores because there was no guarantee of easy access to food at all times. But the problem is that nowadays we have access to food 24/7, and there's lots of processed food with unnaturally high caloric densities that are always within easy reach. That processed food and junk food fills up our fuel tank, so to speak, disproportionately to the way it fills up our stomach. But it doesn't change the fact that it tastes good and we crave it when we get hungry. So when you do get hungry, you don't want to try to force those cravings that come with that hunger out of your mind by trying to restrict. But instead, you want to satisfy that hunger with unprocessed foods that naturally have a low caloric density, and then only satisfy your cravings after you've already satisfied your hunger. By doing that, you'll find that once your stomach is full, most of your cravings for things like junk food will naturally disappear from your mind without you having to fight a losing battle of trying to force them out of there. Foods that will help you satisfy your hunger include high protein options like chicken, turkey, and fish, Obviously, fruits and vegetables have a very low caloric density and they're high in fiber, so of course they're great at satisfying hunger. That's why they're recommended in almost every plan for weight loss. Also, healthy fats like avocados, salmon, and egg yolks all play an important part in reducing hunger as well. Now, after you eat a filling meal full of natural single ingredient foods, you can satisfy those remaining cravings if you have any at all, because you'll be much less likely to overeat since your stomach will already be full. The bottom line is, with whatever plan you set up, do your best to satisfy your physical feeling of hunger, because if you don't, that's when your mind's cravings will get worse, and that's when you'll binge on the wrong foods. Now, for this to all work, step 3 is to always have filling single ingredient foods available within a few minutes notice. Speed is king when it comes to satisfying your hunger. Like I said earlier, most junk food requires no prep and it's always within easy reach when you start feeling hungry. If you're gonna stand there boiling brown rice for 30 minutes and firing up the grill to cook chicken breast, you're gonna have to wrestle with your cravings that whole time. And many times this results in a loss where you cave and give in to the junk food before you ever even had the chance to satisfy that physical feeling of hunger. This is why you want simple options available at all times. One of the best are frozen vegetables. You can easily make a stir fry with frozen vegetables in 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to do even less work and you want to fill up your stomach faster, you can combine frozen vegetables and frozen fruit in a blender. For example, you can fill the blender with 2 cups of green veggies like spinach, kale, or collard greens, and then add a cup of frozen berries on top, add in water, and blend. This will only take you 2 minutes, and not only is it healthy, but it truly helps satisfy hunger, and it's a great strategy to position this before you eat a healthy meal. If you haven't done this before, you'll be amazed at how well this naturally eliminates your cravings instead of trying to force them away, which only ends up making them more powerful. Just keep in mind, I don't recommend making it in a juicer because you're gonna lose all that fiber, and that fiber is essential for keeping you full and killing off that hunger. Another option is to have a couple pre-prepped meals sitting in your fridge ready to go. This way, when you're hungry, you won't be tempted to graze on snacks while you're cooking. Now, for you to follow this strategy of eating healthy foods on a daily basis, you can't constantly force yourself to eat bland, boring salads just to kill off your hunger. This is why step 4 is to actually make healthy food taste great. Again, that restrictive dieting mentality makes you believe that to lose weight, you have to stir fry vegetables with only 1 drop of oil, or that it's ideal to make a green smoothie by combining only spinach and water in a blender rather than adding in some fruit as well. And believe me, I've been on both sides of the fence. I come from a bodybuilding and modeling background where most of my meals were plain and boring chicken breast, broccoli, and brown rice over and over again. But later on, I discovered that you don't have to do that to stay in great shape. And for most people trying to lose weight, bland, boring foods in every meal will quickly make you hate your diet. If you don't make the healthy food you eat taste good, you simply won't want to eat it for very long. To stick to a plan, not only do you have to not be overly restrictive and satisfy your hunger quickly, but you also have to actually enjoy it, or else it's just a matter of time until you give up and yo-yo right back up to your original starting weight. Even if you add a few tablespoons of olive oil to your stir-fried veggies, it'll still be relatively low in calories, especially for how filling it'll be. If that prevents you from eating a bowl of nachos with cheese and you can do it on a daily basis because you actually enjoy the taste, then that becomes a long-term sustainable strategy. Now, obviously, just dumping olive oil into all of your food isn't going to make it taste great, but there are ways to make any single ingredient food and add certain seasonings, condiments, and oils to make them taste great. Again, this is very important because if it's a burden for you to eat the food that you should be eating to lose weight, you will always feel like you're suffering. And I don't care who you are, if your diet makes you feel miserable, you're not going to stick to it. With that said, step number 5 goes hand in hand with this idea of not having to be miserable. Set up an eating pattern that you could routinely stick to that easily prevents overeating and that works with your preferences. I want you to give up the myths associated with meal frequency and meal timing. Nobody has to eat 5 or 6 times a day to lose weight. Your metabolism will not slow down if you eat the same amount of calories in just 1 meal a day. In fact, for many of you, sticking to just 1 meal a day where you would break your fast by filling your stomach up with a green smoothie or a vegetable stir fry, and then you would eat a meal that was high in protein, high in fat, and full of high fiber carbs, all before satisfying any remaining cravings, That would really help accelerate weight loss in a rather effortless way for many of you. For others, fasting all day to get to that one meal at night could feel like absolute torture and could bring out far more cravings. If that sounds like you and you do better with more frequent meals throughout the day, then do that. If you want to only eat twice a day instead of just once, then intermittent fasting can help you do that. But don't get stuck with the dogma that you must do it a certain way. The less meals that you eat throughout the day, the bigger and the more filling each one of your meals will be able to be. The downside to that is you will have to go for a period of time throughout the day with no food at all. While this may be hard in the beginning, your body will adapt to any new eating schedule in a relatively short amount of time. I have numerous videos explaining the science behind fasting that I'll link up at the end. But like I said, you're going to want to customize this around your body and your preferences rather than following some outdated meal timing myths. So those are the 5 simple steps that will give you a solid foundation to lose weight faster by keeping every pound you lose off permanently. By not being overly restrictive, prioritizing foods that have a lower calorie density, having those foods quickly available to satisfy hunger, and by making those foods taste great, all while spreading them out throughout the day in a way that aligns with your preferences, you will lose weight without that grind that's typically associated with dieting. I hope that this video has helped simplify things for you guys and that you've actually enjoyed it. If you have, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. Also, if you want some more specific details regarding how to set this up for yourself, not only do I have tons of videos on this topic that dive a lot deeper into each of the points that I already mentioned today, but on my website, I also have done-for-you programs that are proven to help my clients lose at least 20 pounds or 5% of their body fat in only 6 weeks without starving themselves and without having to spend day and night at the gym. And that's all backed by over 1,000 5-star reviews. Our programs come with a customizable diet plan based on your preferences, whether that's intermittent fasting, keto, carb cycling, 1 meal a day, vegetarian, we got it all. You also get a 42-day workout plan with a full video exercise library and an accountability coach to help guide you through the entire process. To find out more, you can click the link in the description, or you could visit my website directly at gravitytransformation.com. I'll see you guys soon.